president's got a very aggressive agenda when it comes to the economy, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to tax reform. So how do you get it done? How soon can you get it done? And what's going to happen to all the retailers as we think about this? Joining me right now, University of Maryland economist Peter Morici and senior fellow with the Independent Institute, Benjamin Powell. You guys heard me. Benjamin, I'll start with you. As we think through all of this, I think it's extremely important to think about the consequences of it all, because it sounds good. You know, people like the idea of a border tax. We think that maybe it'll make U.S. goods more competitive. But, you know, what happens in the interim? I mean, this thing goes into effect, and basically overnight, you have the potential of decimating the retail industry, just wiping it out. So what would you advise House Republicans on this?
I would agree that getting corporate tax rates down is a good thing, but bundling this border tax in is a bad idea. And I wouldn't say it sounds good initially. I'd actually say it's probably less bad than it sounds, but it still might end up being protectionist that ends up raising the price of some of the intermediate goods that come in for production.
And the reason
I say
that, just to jump in, Benjamin, is that, you know, we got to do something to make ourselves more competitive. It is not right that we are getting beaten at this game by other countries. And so, you know, it's not fair that they're out there putting taxes on goods, and effectively it's coming at American workers' expense. So we have to do something. I just don't know, Benjamin, as this is the right way to go about it right now, and that you might actually see more job loss as a result of this border tax adjustment that penalizes retailers than you want.
Yeah, well, international trade is not a game that's about winning or losing. It's ultimately about serving the consumers, and we want our industry to be as competitive as possible at serving consumers. And I think that means rolling back regulations here that raise the cost of doing business, cutting down on corporate tax rates, making America more competitive by looking internally to all of the government impediments to our businesses better serving consumers here.
In other words,
and that has nothing to do with regulating trade abroad.
Gotcha, that makes us so super competitive that you want to be making those T-shirts here in the United States of America, as opposed to importing them from China. So it's carrots, not sticks. Well, Peter Morici, I know you're in favor. I believe you told me that you're in favor of this border adjustment tax. So how do you see this playing out?
Well, I see it being very difficult to get through, but I think it's very sensible, and let me explain why. Foreign governments all have value-added taxes, and we're essentially going to turn the corporate income tax into a value-added tax. And they rebate the tax on their exports, which means they haven't been taxed. So we're at a disadvantage. And they tax our goods when they go in. This just levels the playing field. That's the first thing.
Okay, but what happens to all these American retailers? I mean, you think about, Macy's is already laying off tons of people.
Yeah,
what's that?
I want to address the retailers right now.
Please.
I find the criticism of each one of these retailers very disingenuous. Because if Walmart has to pay a little bit more for imported goods, it's not going to be at a disadvantage vis-a-vis Target, because they're all going to be facing the same tax. The second thing is it's on the wholesale, not on the retail. So it's not going to be a 20% increase. And if we start to shift production of middle-range goods back to the United States, then there'll be more income, there'll be more GDP, they'll have more customers. You know, you have to look at the whole consequence.
I guess what happens to what you and I pay for goods? I mean, I would have to assume that the price of everything would go up, right?
But not
Benjamin's giving me the signal. But it's got to go up because these companies still need to be able to cover their costs.
There is nothing that we can do to unwind this mess that is going to be painless. The reality is right now American manufacturers are at a dramatic disadvantage.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And I agree. I'm just wondering if there's something we haven't thought about there that might be better for addressing that problem as to, opposed to, you know, potentially sending a lot of retailers out of business. And let's not forget what a significant portion of jobs that accounts for in America.
Is junk the corporate tax completely, junk the personal income tax completely, and go to a 12% value-added tax. The trouble is that conservatives on the Hill, although economists advocate this, find it very, very difficult to accept. That's the problem, because they're afraid the Democrats will come in and it'll be very easy for them to jump the rate from 12 to 13 to 14 to 15. Well, guess what? That's what happened with the corporate tax. That's why we're stuck with this 35%, you know, corporate tax.
Okay.
The trick is to do a good job so we keep winning elections.
That's the problem, right, with politics? Isn't that essentially always the problem with politics? Everybody's just so concerned about winning the next election. I hear you. You got to do a good job. And you know, you heard Steve Bannon just moments ago there at CPAC say, look, you know, the media is basically going to have to eat their own words when they turn around and they see an economy that's growing. But I'm only pointing out what I think is going to be the inevitable when you talk about cause and effect of suddenly slapping this border
it's
tax
much more
on things.
complex than you think, and that's why I have a degree in economics. And one of the things that they don't have at the White House right now are people to make the case they don't have any economists over there.
Peter, my friend, I'm talking common sense here. You want to prohibit these retailers from being able to deduct this expense. You got a lot of retailers right now that, you know, they've gotten pretty used to it, right? And we've gotten used to it as consumers, and that we pay a certain amount for goods, and we're not going to suddenly pay $200 for a dress when, you know, you used to be able to get it for $80. I mean, these are the realities of the situation, and these retailers are already on the brink.
That's not the reality. It's not going to be 80 to 200. It's going to be 80 to 84.
Of this. All right, let me get over to Benjamin, who has not had an opportunity. Who has not had an opportunity to voice his concerns on all this. But your fear, Benjamin, is basically prices are going way up and people are going to be out of work. So you got to look at this problem another way.
Yeah, I think you can look at this another way about making us more competitive overall, but let's also not lose sight of the fact that U.S. manufacturing output is at a near all-time high right now. We are already very productive. We're not being, quote, out-competed by foreign countries like this. And ultimately, the focus needs to be on the U.S. ultimate consumers here. And whether it's at the wholesale level or the retail level and the differences between Walmart and Target, that doesn't matter. The point is, if the price of our intermediate goods and our imports for consumption go up, it's going to make Americans worse off.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and my concern is the job losses that we would suffer. You may want to wipe the slate clean and start all over, but the problem is the pain that's going to ensue is going to be so direct and so acute that it really, it's going to cost you. Peter, Benjamin, good to see you guys. Thank you so much.